In this lesson, you'll learn about the surface areas and volumes of spheres. So our objective is to find the surface area and volume of a sphere. The definition of a sphere is the set of all points in space that are equidistant from a given point called the center. It has a radius. Radius is a segment that has one endpoint at the center and the other endpoint on the sphere. And it has a diameter, which is a segment passing through the center with endpoints on the sphere. So the definitions of a sphere are very similar to the definitions of a circle. And you can find the surface area and volume of a sphere if you know its radius. Now, when a plane and a sphere intersect in more than one point, the intersection is always going to be a circle. So the two-dimensional figure that's on the plane that passes through a sphere is going to be a circle. If the center of the circle is also the center of the sphere, like this one in the middle, if it's the center of the sphere, it's called the great circle. The circumference of a great circle is also is the circumference of the sphere, and the great circle divides the sphere into two hemispheres, just like the Earth has a southern hemisphere and a northern hemisphere. The great circle would be where the equator is. So let's look at the theorem for the surface area of a sphere. The surface area of a sphere is 4 times the product of pi and the square of the radius of the sphere. So it's 4 times pi r squared, or 4 times the area of that circle that's the great circle that's in the middle of the sphere. Give it that way. In the volume of a sphere, the volume of a sphere is going to be 4/3 the product of pi and the cube of the radius. So just remember to keep these straight. Area is always squared, so your formula for area has the radius squared. Volume is always cubed, so your formula for volume has the radius cubed in the formula. So let's look at some problems. In the first problem, you're finding the surface area of a sphere in terms of pi. So your formula for surface area of a sphere is 4 times pi times the radius squared. So the radius in this sphere, the diameter is 18, so the radius is 9. So we have 4 times pi times 9 squared, which is going to be 4 times 36 is 324, and he wants it in terms of pi, so don't multiply the pi out, just leave the pi in your answer, and it's inches squared. In problem 2, you're finding the surface area of a sphere. So the surface area of a sphere ball with a circumference of about 25 inches. And you got to round it to the nearest 10 square inches. So the circumference formula is 2 times pi times the radius. And the whole reason they gave you that is because you're going to have to use the circumference of 25 and put that in the formula for circumference, 2 times pi times the radius, to solve for the radius. So to do that, we're going to have to divide both sides by 2 pi. Divide both sides by 2 pi so that the 2 pi's cancel on the right side and you've solved for the radius. But just be careful when you put this in your calculator. If you put this in your calculator, some calculators, you need to force the order of operation on it, and you'd put 25 over open parentheses 2 pi close parentheses. So you'd put in 25 divided by open parentheses 2 pi close parentheses to make sure it does that multiplication on 2 pi correctly in the denominator. Now that's just to solve. All that was just to solve for the radius. So now we have to actually find the surface area. So to find the surface area, so since we found the radius to be 25 over 2 pi, we're going to put that into so now we're going to plug that into the surface area formula. Surface area is equal to 4 times pi times the radius squared. So we have 4 times pi, and we're going to go ahead and put in the 25 over 2 pi for the radius. And that's going to be 4 pi. So to square this, you need to square the numerator and the denominator. 25 times 25 is 625. And then square the bottom. 2 times 2 is 4. And then pi times pi, you're going to have pi squared in the denominator. So now to the 4's cancel, and one of the pi's will cancel out and leave you with 1 pi left in the denominator. So you've got 625 divided by pi, and put that in your calculator, and that's approximately equal to 200 inches squared for the surface area of that sphere. In problem 3, we're finding the volume of the sphere in terms of pi. So the volume that gives us the radius is 12 millimeters. That's all you need for the formula. So the formula for volume is 4/3 times pi times the radius cubed. So 4/3 pi times 12 cubed is 4/3 times pi times 1,728. And we want to leave it in terms of pi. So just multiply the 4/3 times the 1,728. You're going to get 2,304 pi. Just don't multiply the pi out. And that's in millimeters cubed. In the last problem, it gives you the volume of a sphere and it asks you to find the surface area. So you're going to have to use the volume of the sphere to find the radius, and then use the radius in the surface area formula. So let's first use the volume formula. Since they gave you volume, volume is 4/3 times pi times the radius cubed. And it told you the volume was 2200. So substitute in 2200 for the volume is equal to 4/3 pi times the radius cubed. So to solve for the radius, you need to divide both sides by pi to get pi off of the right side. So 2200, divide that by pi, and you need to multiply by the reciprocal of the fraction. So times 3/4 to get the fraction off of the right side. So that's equal to r cubed. You still haven't solved for r, so you're going to have to multiply together the left side and then take the cubed root of both sides. So to do that, we're going to have, so to solve for r is going to be the cubed root of 6600 divided by 4 pi. So you can put this in your calculator and get that your radius is approximately equal to 8.0, let's go out a few places, 06823. So now we need this radius to go into the surface area formula. So in the surface area formula, we found the radius. Let me write that back down again. The radius we found to be 8.06823. And we're going to put that into the surface area formula. Surface area is equal to 4 times pi times the radius squared. So that's 4 times pi. And put in that value for the radius, 0.6823 squared. Plug that in your calculator, and you're going to get approximately equal to 818 yards squared, because this is surface area.